All right, we have got one final presentation before we break, and we're going to then be breaking for lunch, and I'd ask everyone to please leave here because it's going to be broken up into smaller rooms so that we can have our panels. But the person I'd like to introduce is Chris Skelton, and he is the General Manager of Marketplacer. And what he's going to be talking about is how do we drive more sales and leads that are not only into our company stores, but into all our stockists. And Chris is going to discuss how retailers are now starting to think and act like marketplaces, implementing strategies such as drop shipping, endless aisles, and rolling out membership models. And I think you're going to be discussing something along Maya and how they've really transformed their digital offering. So with that, I'd like to introduce Chris. Thank you. Lovely to see you.
Likewise, thank you. Clicker up here. So afternoon, guys. My name is Chris Skelton, and I am the General Manager of Marketplacer here in Australia and New Zealand. And I've got the pleasure of looking after you just before lunch when Gwen has just spent time talking about a pretzel double cheeseburger. So bear with me, I'll make this punchy. To give you some context, for those of you that don't know Marketplacer, we are a SaaS technology provider that helps our clients create successful marketplaces. And what I'll spend time on today is really, probably over the next 15 minutes or so, giving you a very high-level view of how people are starting to think beyond that traditional e-commerce. But to frame that, first of all, a 30-second video, which will give you some more context on where I'm going to go over the next 15 minutes. Have I got the slides back? So, we've heard over the last couple of days some of the themes I'm going to touch on very, very quickly, just to sort of freshen up on how it is we're taking our approach to market in terms of thinking beyond that traditional e-commerce channel. I certainly, in some of the speakers or some of the talks that I've attended over the last couple of days, it's tough. Now, Australian retail has been spoken about the cost of lease, the cost of labor, spoken a little bit about the declining dollar, and disposable income is becoming tighter for all of us. And that's in the context of what was mentioned in the last panel discussion. The best benchmark of how important experience is ourselves as consumers. And our expectations are higher than ever before of how that experience is continuous, it's real, it's engaging, it's compelling. And it needs to continue to evolve. So where we've got to in how we think is to help people think like a marketplace, to help people to start to think a little bit differently beyond e-commerce. And to unpack that a little bit and give you the themes that I'm going to touch on through the next 15 minutes or so, is to really touch on maybe some of the elements that, again, have been touched on in many of the talks that I've certainly attended over the last day and a half. Drop shipping from third parties, the opportunity to be able to not feel constrained by inventory. Endless aisle, a strategy whereby you've got to have the right platform or the right infrastructure and process in your organization that allows you to seamlessly scale into being able to range more product. New revenue streams, being able to have an architecture, an infrastructure, and again, the right people and process in your organization that allows you to react to the opportunity and scale with the opportunity when a new revenue stream presents itself or becomes something that you need to move quickly on. Often one that's skipped over, lead generation. How is it you create the right approach and platform that allows you to capture the lead, but almost more importantly, distribute it efficiently to make sure it gets acted on in a timely fashion? And how do you do all of that in the context of evolving the experience and staying in touch with how it is that you need to move that experience as your business or product develops? So what I thought I would do is, rather than talk to you a little bit about how we might present, but really to talk to this through the lens of a couple of our biggest clients. So first of all, Maya, an iconic brand. Everybody knows it. And Maya were no different to anybody else. They understood that they had to continue to grow, continue to take share, but they too had the constraints of 64 stores and close to 14,000 people. They realized that they had to grow online, but at the same time, they wanted to stay true to their premium and curated brand. And they understood that they had to think about how they get beyond the constraints of inventory, but at the same time, stay true to the experience that they want to deliver. So the approach they took, and this started probably 18 months ago with the curation, or rather the creation of the Maya Market, was to create a premium curated destination for lifestyle products. And we started to work with Maya to think about what process they needed to go to build the foundation to do just that. It started with dropship. I'll get my words in a minute. It started with dropship from third parties, being able to move beyond the constraints of inventory, which allowed Maya quickly to think about how it was that they could extend product, extend range, extend within their existing categories. And the learnings from that allowed them to think about how it is that they could start to invest in incremental categories, which in some respects they could trial and see how they landed on the Maya Market. And all of this in the context of being able to unite a community of 6.5 million Maya 1 members that allows us to further offer enhanced service and ultimately a better customer experience. But Maya understood that it's not just curated product that allows you to offer a premium service, but what unique selling proposition are you going to put into that experience that ensures, in this case, Maya could create a unique market proposition for their marketplace. And there were 4 levers that they looked to pull. First of all, to go back to the Maya 1 loyalty program and to ensure that any purchase by a Maya 1 member on the marketplace was rewarded with points. Secondly, to ensure that they leverage that community of 6.5 million members, not just in being able to market them effectively because of the data insight that they had for the profiles of that particular audience, but also to use it to onboard sellers, to give them the opportunity for more reach and to be able to market to a more addressable opportunity. They use that network of stores to offer click and collect. And again, one of the previous speakers spoke to being able to connect that online and offline world. And what this allowed them to do was to drive attach rates as some of that audience came back into store and actually work the in-store conversion rates as well. And similarly, they enhanced the service for returns. They made it easy. They made it simple. And allowed any product that was bought on the Maya Market to get returned in store. And although I can't talk specifically to numbers, this is where they've got to, having launched probably just over a year ago. They've been able to onboard 265 new sellers, 60,000 products, and launch 4 new categories. And all of this is because they're now able to scale by leveraging the marketplace platform in the ways that they're able to onboard sellers through a simple API-led architecture with the right connection tools and with an inbuilt product management system that allows you to sync inventory and ensure that your product data is mapped. The categories. The learnings allowed them to think about the categories that they wanted to introduce in the Maya Market. And you can see on the slide the 4 new categories that they introduced over the last 12 months. And there was method in this. They were able to understand from their Maya 1 database the typical profile of that Maya 1 member. And one particular member, not the only one by any means, was that 30 to 40-year-old female, typically running a busy family home. And what they understood was how could they help this particular audience to go beyond the typical purchase, which predominantly was around fashion. Many of them had families, so being able to cater for the kids. I, for one, we certainly have a pet, so being able to open up a category around pets. I don't know what You guys are like with kids, but I certainly spend all of my weekends ferrying them around to different sports trips. So being able to go into the sports category to cater for those sporting needs. And incidentally, one of the benefits of getting into that category was being able to range more of those activewear type brands. And one success certainly was Lorna Jane, and that now ranges in store. And then finally, jumping on the back of being able to trial the trend that is gifting the experience ahead of a product. And that came through a partnership with Red Blue. So Maya are now just over a year into this journey. And as I said, I can't tell you the numbers, but I can tell you that it's doing very well. It's very successful. And they've certainly now put themselves in a position to scale very quickly. The dropship model is working. So now they have the foundation to be able to think about how they continue to leverage and onboard increments of sellers. But they're staying true to the purpose. They're staying true to that curated and premium brand. And that's important to make sure you maintain the brand of that marketplace. The structures are set up for more incremental revenue streams. But you have to be able to react quickly. And don't forget the community. So being able to look after the ways that you bond those members and continually understand how you enhance the experience to ensure that you get that tribal, trusted mentality. Another iconic Australian brand, Jayco. For those of you that don't know, Jayco, one of the biggest manufacturer of caravans, very loyal customer base, very, very significant share. But where Jayco were at in their journey is really how they wanted to better unite what was becoming a fairly disparate dealer network. They didn't have a single destination to be able to capture all of the information about their product and then communicate effectively where that customer could go and fulfill through a dealer. Effectively, it was their strategy was, or the strategy behind the marketplace was really around unified commerce, which is a sometimes overused term. But simplistically, what it means, you provide the information, a single source of that information, and let the customer decide where they want to procure the product. And done properly, effectively, there's three outcomes. That single source of data that the customer trusts, a lead management system, which ensures an efficient management of those leads and efficient fulfillment. And ordinarily, the opportunity to capture data and insights, which ensures that you can maintain the connection with the customer and enhance the customer experience. So their marketplace strategy was to really focus on that lead generation. They wanted to bring a single destination back together to ensure that Jayco became that destination, and then they wanted to create a lead management system that ensured that a customer knew where they could go and fulfill that purchase. In so doing, they were able to bring back the experience and ensure that the customers were able to get what they wanted by way of information and fulfill that in the ways that they wanted to. The marketplace platform has given them the opportunity to think way beyond caravans, and I'll talk to that on a journey side a little bit later on in this deck. And they were able to think about how they go beyond a caravan community, maybe into an adventure-type community. I spoke in my introduction about often this is the misplaced currency of a marketplace. People forget about leads. And part of the work that we went through with Jayco is to really understand their source of leads, and more importantly, how they were starting to capture it, and then think about a timely distribution model. And as you can see from the slide, predominantly, there was just one source. And it was a fairly heavy source in terms of being able to book a demo. So by enabling the platform to capture address, phone number, and email, what we were able to do is very, very quickly increase the uptake of leads. And clearly, this is of major benefit to Jayco. But it was also fascinating for the dealers, because it wasn't only the volume of leads, but it was the source of those leads. And this was some information that we shared with them at their dealer conference recently. But to give you a perspective, it was able to, if I'll look at Jayco Mackay, the source of lead there, 80% of their leads were coming through email. But yet 80% of the time they were out on the road. So in terms of being able to drive conversion of those leads in the dealerships, this information has been invaluable in the ways that they're learning and putting tools into their business to react in a better way based on the source of that lead. For instance, putting in an email automation system to ensure that they're able to respond to the lead and create a process that ensures that nothing's lost on that email conversion. So the marketplace platform has allowed them to think differently. It's allowed them to scale. To give you a perspective on where they are in their journey, they're probably up to box 3. They've got the lead generation system. It's showing tremendous return in terms of how it's uniting the dealerships. The customer experience has been enhanced in terms of information flow. And now they've started to use that infrastructure to think about how it is that they scale into incremental revenue streams and, incidentally, third-party product. A couple of interesting stats. The Jayco client base, which indeed is very loyal, will typically think about upgrading a caravan every 4 years. 87% of Jayco clients will own 2 or more caravans in their lifetime. Now, those are quite long cycles. So what Jayco understood is that they needed to find a ways of creating more relevancy and ultimately more frequency of touch with their clients to think about how they could scale. And that's really from box 3 onwards in this slide. Being able to think about a second-hand market and giving their customers the opportunity to sell across the dealer network also gave Jayco the opportunity to understand buying behavior and what people were looking for in the upgrade of their caravans. We're just about to launch third-party product around parts and services, which is going to allow Jayco to really extend the ways that they create incremental revenue streams across their network. And why wouldn't that extend to third party in complementary products around some of the adventure goods, if that's a phrase, adventure goods that might come into the ecosystem across Jayco. And ultimately then extend to, on that adventure journey, maybe booking into a park, and then based on that adventure scenario, why wouldn't you then, while you're in that park, think of an experience? So the platform has really opened up from Jayco just thinking caravans to thinking adventure. Some terrific results. Across 32 dealers, the lead management system is really paying dividends. 600 products, but clearly that's going to increase dramatically when we put parts and accessories on there. And they're starting to see a real return on that lead conversion in stealing more share. So in terms of where they've got to on their journey, being able to put that lead management system in has been key to being able to effectively drive that unified commerce type strategy. They've become the destination, not for caravans, but for adventure. And they've now got the infrastructure with which to scale and take advantage of that opportunity when it presents itself. And what they've managed to do is achieve really what they set out to do, which is really unify that experience and, most importantly, reconnect with the client and start to drive real insightful information in how they can involve the way the customer feels and how they engage. We've seen a phenomenal growth in the number of leads. We've doubled the number of leads in terms of what's going to the dealers. So the opportunity for us to continue to grow and take advantage of what is now a very foolproof marketplace solution with Jayco is immense. So what do we do in all of this? Well, as I said in my introduction, we're a SaaS technology provider. We help others create successful marketplaces. We know because we do. What do I mean? Where have we come from? So Jason Wyatt, who's the founder of this business, has come from where you guys sit. He's come from creating his own marketplaces, the biggest of which is Bike Exchange, which he founded 12 years ago now. And Bike Exchange is the biggest of its kind for bikes globally and now operates in 12 countries. So Jason's owned or part-owned a number of marketplaces over the last 12 years. And probably about 18 months ago, he realized that based on a very robust platform and a real understanding of how it is, or the journey that people need to go through to create a successful marketplace, he decided to take the platform to market. And today we're 40 marketplaces. We operate across 12 countries, across those 3 hubs in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and the US. We've got more than 9,000 businesses connected to our marketplaces. We go to market with a methodology. And the reason we've tried to package up our IP is because we recognize that implementing a marketplace strategy can be complex. So we try and help our customers and take them through the journey, through discovery, through to implementation around the technology, and ultimately into operational optimization in terms of getting up and running. And what we've tried to do is package up that IP to make sure that we are efficient in how we can take our clients through this. So for instance, from a discovery phase, 3 building blocks. You know, the purpose and need that you're serving as a marketplace is key. How can we help devise what that strategy needs to be to make sure it's efficient in how it operates? And almost most importantly, is it commercially viable? How can we help you model out what that P&L is going to look like based on our experience of having run P&Ls for marketplaces before? Arguably, the technology is the easy bit. How do we size the technology and make sure that, based on its modular makeup, we're able to pick the components that you need to be able to run some of the functionality that I showed earlier? And we've packaged up some implementation packs to ensure that we've used best practice in what needs to happen and what doesn't need to happen in a way that gets you up and running quickly. And then we've devised a premium service or a form of managed service, which some clients want to take, to allow us to hold their hand as they're getting up and running, and effectively transition that IP as to when they're confident to be able to run the marketplace on their own. And I'm not going to spend any time really talking to the technology, outside of to say 2 things. First of all, it's modular. What does that mean? It means it's a full stack, but you pick which bits you want, which allows it to scale as you grow your business. And the second part of that is it's flexible. We recognize that many of you already have a commerce strategy. Many of you already have that commerce engine. So being able to have a headless offering that just plugs in to what that front end or commerce platform might be to give you the smarts of a marketplace, allowing you to take advantage of all of the investment and brand that you've built around your existing front end. So, in closing, it is tough out there, but we still think there is immense opportunity to think beyond the traditional e-commerce channel and to think about some of the themes that I've spoken to, albeit at a very, very high level. And we're certainly spending our time getting really, really excited about the opportunity and some of the exciting projects that we're delivering with our clients. With that, thank you. Enjoy lunch. Should any of this be of interest, we'll certainly be around for the rest of the conference, and I've left my contact details on the slide. Enjoy the rest of the conference.